The iPhone 15 Pro Max is the phone that I've been using every single day over the last few weeks. There have been a lot of controversies, there have been a lot of talk surrounding this phone, and we did address almost all of the things that we're probably going to talk about a little bit more again in this video just a few days after it was released, but there are a few updates and things that I want to tell you about. But I feel comfortable giving you my full review on the iPhone 15 Pro Max and whether or not it's worth $1,200 of your hard-earned dollars. Now, a lot of this is also going to apply to this one, the iPhone 15 Pro. But then when it comes down to some of the major differences with the Pro Max, that's when this is going to switch, obviously. But let's start with the design and the titanium frame. And first we'll start with the major controversy on whether or not it was the titanium's fault that the iPhone 15 and 15 Pro, well, the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max were getting super hot. And the answer seems to be no. We should have known because Apple has had bugs in operating systems before to where your phone gets pretty hot when in just normal use and during charging. And so, yeah, that apparently is the case. Apple actually just pushed out an update to iOS 17.0.3, and that had an issue where it fixes a bug that causes the phone to get hot during use. Now, I never experienced my phone getting too hot during just normal everyday use when I'm not charging. I have experienced, and I'm still experiencing, times in which I plug my phone in and it's charging via USB-C, and whether it's charging rapidly or just, just in general, it has gotten pretty hot. Not like on fire hot. There was one time where it was pretty hot to the touch, and the titanium frame was definitely like, I'm not picking that up right now. But it was mostly during charging. And again, almost every single time it has been with cables that I have just found lying around the house or in the car or just whatever. So they're not official Apple cables. When wireless charging, it's gotten a little bit warm, but nothing crazy. With MagSafe chargers. With my car charger, which I expressed in the last video where we talked about this, it's still happening. In fact, I've gotten alerts where it says the wireless charging will continue when the iPhone has cooled off and gotten down to a better temperature. But every time I've picked it up, it's been pretty cool. So it seems to cool itself fast. But yeah, I mean, it's not good with unofficial chargers in my opinion. And I've had that issue with other phones in the past. This one does get a little bit warmer, but overall during people would say they'd be scrolling Instagram was like kind of the biggest one that I've seen where it would get pretty warm. I've never had that issue. Now, when it comes to the design and the titanium frame for durability, I have been using this phone for the last 3 or so weeks with no case. I've had a few slight small drops, no dents, no nothing. It looks flawless. Again, I've been lucky with some of those drops. I do put on a screen protector. I am a type of person who doesn't like micro scratches on their screen. It really bothers me for some reason. If it's on the screen protector, cool. I know my screen is still perfectly fine. But yeah, I'd rather protect the screen, so I put on a screen protector. But in terms of the frame, I don't drop it as much on like the very back or the front. It's usually like, oh, it hits the side. And so I should have a case on it, but I've been pretty good. But in terms of like the actual body and the frame, again, I've dropped it. It hasn't really been anything crazy. I have not noticed any scuffs. There are definitely no scratches. When it comes to fingerprints, a lot of people have talked about like which color they should get. I am a firm believer that the natural is the way to go. If you don't like smudges and fingerprints showing up, even if it scratches, it's going to show a lot less compared to something like the blue. I think this color looks amazing, but you can just see here that the finish is definitely more susceptible to leaving fingerprints on that titanium. If you were to scratch it, we've seen people's videos where it's way more noticeable. So natural is naturally, pun intended, the best one in my opinion to go with. The other thing with the frame is that these contoured edges make the phone just feel so much better. The titanium makes it lighter. It makes it feel in the hand just a lot better to use over anything else that Apple has made since the iPhone 12, the 13, the 14. Those sharp edges, they might look nice, but this phone feels a lot better. This is probably the best feeling iPhone since the iPhone 10. And it's right up there in terms of which one feels better. It certainly looks really good, and it feels really good. So yeah, I know a lot of people out there make fun of me for saying like, oh, who cares about how the phone feels? I do. Contoured edges, when you're going caseless, and even when you put a case on it, it helps with that titanium frame to make the phone lighter and make it feel better in the hand. And then when you go caseless, it feels great. But overall, durability has been great. I would still probably recommend a case for most of you out there, strictly because, $1,200 is a lot of money, and I don't want anyone to be like, well, Dan told me I can go caseless. So if you really are worried about it, obviously Apple Care is a great thing, but put a case on it, which leads us to today's sponsor, Casetify. And I'm going to have Dan in a different shirt tell you all you need to know about Casetify. Casetify has tons of amazing cases to choose from that are not only stylish, but protective and sustainable. I also love the fact that you can customize these cases to add your own personal flair to your phone wherever you go. Now, I have a few cases from Casetify here that I definitely want to highlight, but the one that I want to start with is the Ultra Bounce case because, well, this is protection at its finest. Max protection, obviously, with these corners from the Ultra Bounce case. I mean, how perfect is this? If you were to drop your phone on a corner, depending on the impact with most other cases, you'll probably still withstand some damage to your phone, but that's not happening to that sweet titanium frame with these Ultra Bounce cases. I mean, just looking at these corners, you can definitely tell these are some solid materials that are used around this frame here. It's going to withstand any impact that you might have. You have a raised bezel as well to help protect your screen. And this case just has so many different layers to it that it really gives you that max protection that you need. I mean, you can drop this thing from up to 32 feet high, which is absolutely wild. Of course, most of the cases that I'm showing you here are all MagSafe compatible and come in a bunch of different designs. You can even get snakes all over them if that's what you're into, which is what my son is into, and he really loves that case. I also really like seeing this see-through style case that shows the wireless charging coils. That just looks really, really cool. It's kind of like a transparent iPhone per se. And also one of my other favorites is this leather case, which is actually the Impact line from Casetify. It's sleek, it's minimal, and again, it just looks really, really good. It's a nice leather option. Now that Apple isn't providing us with leather options, this is a good route to go. So go ahead and visit the description box below and click the link. That's www.casetify.com/MacRumors to get 15% off your order today. Thanks Casetify for sponsoring this video. Battery life has continued to be pretty solid. I've been actually very impressed, and this is all just in comparison to my 14 Pro Max. It's not a world beater, but it's better than that, at least right now. But yeah, it's been very good. I've noticed that I'm having way more battery just kind of on a standby level. My phone would drain like crazy, and I would be, around this time, I'm at 86%. I've been using it since 7 a.m. Usually on a daily basis around this time, I'd be at like 60 or 70. So we're doing really, really well here in the battery department. I am ending the day with like 40%, anywhere from 30 to 40%. Usually after 30% or lower, it kicks on my low power mode. And I have not really seen low power mode on at all. And I have put on low power mode manually while traveling, because while traveling, that has been something where battery life has drained quite a bit. But in terms of everyday normal use for battery, it has been definitely better for me over the 14 Pro Max. So if you're upgrading from that, it's going to be good. Anything else, it should be obviously even better, because the older you get, the older your battery gets, and it's probably not as reliable as it once was. Moving on to the action button, it's been useful, but not as useful as it really could be with a lot of the things that you can do out there. And a lot of you have been taking advantage of this action button. And recently I did a video that was different useful configurations for shortcuts and things that you can map to. So like you press the button, it launches into an app, and then you can press it again in like a second or two and it launches into a different app. So it's got like a multi-use button there. And then you can kind of like map it to different orientations. So if you turn it to landscape on your left side, it can open up the camera app. In photo, if you turn it to the right side, it can open up the camera app in video, and then you can keep it in portrait, and it can just be the standard mute switch. And so there are a lot of shortcuts that you can do and make it so much more useful. I just don't know which shortcut I want to use. Let me know in the comments down below what you think I should look into and what would be a good use case for some of that. Also, click the link up here to check out that video. I think think it's really, really useful if you're trying to decide the best ways to take advantage of your action button. But what I can say is I right now leave it to the camera, and I have already ingrained in my brain just a faster way to launch into the camera. I just press and hold, and I really like that. And that's might just be enough for me. Regardless, it can be what it once was, which is just a mute switch, and it can also be whatever you want. So in my opinion, I think this is a great upgrade to the phone, because if you're like, oh, it's a gimmick, I just wanted to make it to be ring or silent, well, then you can do that. You can just keep it to what it was. And if you want to be more advanced and get into the weeds of the things that you can do by switching this up, then yeah, it offers that too. So more options, the better. You don't have to use it if you don't want to. And yeah, to me, that makes it a worthy upgrade if you can figure out what you're going to use it for. So to me, what makes the iPhone 15 Pro Max the choice out of all 4 iPhone 15s is the camera system. This is by far the best camera system yet, and it's all because of the 5x telephoto lens. That 120 millimeter focal length gives me absolutely incredible shots, especially with portraits. I absolutely love this lens and what it can do, even when you're not in portrait mode, but especially in portrait mode. I think these are some of the best portraits Apple has ever done. They absolutely look like a real pro camera, a DSLR, just out there switching on a nice lens, getting that creamy bokeh. Like, I just think it looks really, really good. This definitely applies for the overall camera system. I think a lot of the pictures have improved from the 48 megapixel sensor, which now you can take 48 and 24 megapixel photos. If you don't want to take up a lot of storage, you can still take the Pro RAW photos. It was already a really good camera system on the 14 Pro, and now I just think it gets that much better, especially with that 120 millimeter 5x telephoto lens. I never used the telephoto lens in the past, but now I do. And so this is definitely Apple's best overall camera system yet. And I know a lot of people are wondering just how far back. If you listen to the Mac Rumor show, Hartley doesn't like that this is a lot further up, because he liked that, I think it was like 70 millimeters, so you don't have to get so far back. And he keeps saying, like, how far back do you have to go? And honestly, let me just tell you, I don't really have a whole answer to that. I don't measure just like how far back, but it was never an issue for me to have the room to move back and get the shot. I'm on the busy streets of New York during most of this testing. There are a lot of people. I'm trying to take a picture of Kevin here, my buddy. He's standing in the middle of the road, and I was able to, do this quickly because we have cars coming and there are lots of people around, and I'm able to take this picture and have enough room, and I've never once worried about it. And worst case, I could just change the lens and go between the 1x, the digital 2, and you can make it a 3 digitally if you wanted to, but there's just so much more detail and good boost in quality that it's definitely noticeable, and it's a really good camera upgrade in my opinion. I will say some of the colors oftentimes seem to be a little fabricated. I thought Apple was more of like always a neutral phone, and it definitely is much more neutral and natural in the colors compared to some of the other phones that I've tested already with the iPhone 15 Pro Max compared to some Android competitors out there. But like some of the sky colors were just not quite right. Like, again, going back to the photo with my buddy here, he has this bright orange background behind him, and it was orange, but it wasn't like that. This is definitely Apple taking a little bit of liberty with the color science and making it a little bit more vibrant. I have turned HDR off on all accounts because I just don't like the way it looks. And so it's not HDR making this happen here, but there's something going on where you can kind of notice that the colors are changing. And so it's fine. It still looks really nice, but it's definitely going to be a preference thing for sure. The video quality remains fantastic. Not much has changed in my opinion for like normal video quality compared to the iPhone 14 Pro Max, but the thing that I've been messing around with the most and that I really, really love, and this might be niche to some of you out there, but for me, it's ProRes Log. I know this isn't a feature for everyone, I get that, but if you can find some time to mess around with custom LUTs, you can really get some cool cinematic looking footage. And there are plenty of LUTs out there that you can buy, so where you don't have to create your own. I don't even do that, but there are plenty of options out there. And then all you have to do is just kind of know how to apply that to your footage in some sort of editor that you use on your Mac or maybe your iPad. But I love that this is an option for me as a creator standpoint here. It's only a matter of time until honestly I can make the iPhone just kind of my go-to for recording stuff at events and just making it a good run and gun option. It's not going to replace my studio camera, but it's definitely good for when I'm on the go. The only issue is storage, because you only get like 50 minutes with the 512 gig iPhone, and that's only going down as you take up more storage with other things. But there is a workaround, USB-C gives you the ability to record directly to an external SSD. And that's nice, but you have to carry the SSD around, and I know there will be some kind of solution, and there are already some things out there that people are doing, but you can tape it to the back of your phone if you want to. That's a good, useful thing in a pinch. Not something I want to do all the time. The whole appeal of recording with your phone is being able to just like carry it around and do this and not have to worry about wires and stuff hanging around. So otherwise, maybe I recommend kind of getting a 1 terabyte iPhone. This is 512. I think 1 terabyte is a sweet spot if you're planning to use a lot of ProRes log footage. Let's see, is there anything else that I am missing? I just think overall it's a pretty similar experience to the 14 Pro Max, besides some of the other things that I've talked about. So for me, it's the titanium frame. It's the best feeling iPhone for sure. There's no overheating issues for me, and I hope for others now that that update has been pushed, that this can be kind of put to bed. But durability has been fine. I'm not lighting it on fire with the blowtorch. I'm not purposefully trying to bend it. I am going caseless. It's been 3 weeks. I've had no issues. I don't expect there to be a lot of issues. If I drop it, that's my fault. If you're someone who's clumsy, again, check out Casetify, our sponsor. There are plenty of cases out there to choose from, and might I add, you can take a look at one of theirs. The action button, it's definitely useful, and if you don't think it's useful, then don't use it. Just put it back to the ring silent and leave it as is. But I think it's better to have the ability to customize it than not. So I like that there. And the cameras are incredible. I'll be doing a 15 review, an iPhone 15 review, so be sure to check that out and subscribe to the channel and all of that so you don't miss those videos. This has been Dan with Mac Rumors. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you around in the... Oh, I didn't even tell you. Is the iPhone 15 Pro Max worth buying? Definitely. Is it worth going from a 14 Pro Max to a 15 Pro Max? Probably not. That's not a very smart financial thing because your 14 Pro Max is really, really good already. But if you like the idea of the things that I talked about, and if you're a huge telephoto lens fan, and you only wish that it could, zoom in further, and you like the photos that I'm getting, then yeah, why not? Upgrade. Go for it. You can probably trade in your 14 Pro Max and get a substantial discount towards that trade-in value. So highly recommend it for sure. If you're coming from anything else, this is the phone to get, in my opinion, for those pro users and that liked all of the features that I talked about. The 15 might be the better choice, which we'll talk about in a future video. This has been Dan with Mac Rumors. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you around in the next video.